First story is The Breath of the Moon. The last oxygen harvester on the moon hummed a lonely dirge into the silent sea of dust. For 50 years it breathed for a dying Earth, condensing trace gases into a thin, vital stream of air. Its sole custodian, engineer Elara Vance, was the last human for 250,000 miles. She wasn't tending a machine, she was performing a vigil. Earth was now a shrunken, brown-stained marble. Artemis 1's stream was the final thread, and her mission log was a countdown to obsolescence. The reactor was failing. Each tremor through the station's spine was a warning. She had been given the evacuation code, but to leave was to sever the thread. She spent her hours in the viewing blister, her palm against the cold glass, watching the harvester's intake vents drink the void. They pulled in ghosts. The final alert was a shriek that shattered the station's quiet hymn. Catastrophic burst imminent. The reactor would breach in minutes. Protocol pulled her toward the hangar and the single-seat lander. She reached the airlock. The blue launch button glowed. Earth waited for her report of failure. But her hand froze. She looked back. A status light pulsed. Thump, thump, like a heartbeat. It was the sound of the last breath being born. To save herself was logical. To save the breath was a prayer. She made her choice. She ran not away, but deeper in, toward the reactor core. Alarms became a deafening chorus. She bypassed safeties with shaking, practiced hands. Her mind was on the faces of those who would take one more gasp because of this machine. She rerouted every ounce of backup power to the harvester's final, massive compression cycle. She was giving the reactor a purpose for its death. One last great exhalation. The compression sequence engaged with a deep tectonic groan. The entire station shuddered. Elara stumbled into the viewing blister as the lunar surface outside seemed to shimmer. From the massive central vent, a geyser of pure, condensed oxygen erupted. Not a stream, but a river, a silent, glorious fountain against the stars. It was a breath given back, a final, magnificent sigh. The burst of light from the core breach filled the blister. There was no fear, only a profound quiet. As the shockwave hit, Elara saw it, the immense, glowing plume. A temporary, beautiful atmosphere around the moon, a halo for a graveyard. The thread was not severed, it was woven into a bridge. And for a moment, in that radiant, silent explosion, the moon breathed. And it was enough. Second story, the last memory of Earth. They called it the final archive, and Kale was its last curator. Not a library of books, but of echoes. The final resonant imprints of a planet that no longer was. Earth was dust, a pale blue ghost in telescopic memory. Humanity lived on, scattered across sterile orbital arcs, efficient and endless, but they were forgetting. The smell of rain on hot asphalt, the weight of a dog's head on your lap. These were the ghosts Kale tended. He would don the neural lace and dive into the archive. Today's resonance was tagged Solitude Beneficial. Instead, he was submerged, not in water, but in sensation. The crush of warm, wet sand between toes. The rhythmic, thunderous crash of a vast gray ocean. The salty, iron-tang wind that scoured his face. It was the memory of being the ocean. Kale surfaced, gasping. His sterile chamber felt like a coffin. The perfect, climate-controlled air tasted of nothing. He began to break protocol. He stopped scheduling. He started chasing. He lived the memory of kneading dough in a sunlit kitchen. He felt the furious, joyful grip of a newborn's hand. He wept through the memory of a final, silent look of love. The Council of Arcs summoned him. "You are hoarding neurotransmitters, curator," the presiding official stated. Kale looked at them. He saw, not advancement, but a great forgetting. They had traded thunderstorms for static, forests for filtration units. They had saved the species, but lost the song. He returned to the archive one last time. But he didn't just interface. He began to weave. He worked as a composer, creating a symphony of what it meant to be human. Security breached his chamber as he set the final sequence. The neural lace glowed like a supernova on his brow. He offered no defense. He triggered the broadcast. A pulse. A raw, emotional wave. For 3 seconds, every human in the fleet stopped. A child felt a phantom warmth and began to cry, from a yearning she could not name. A mechanic smelled ozone and wet earth, his heart hammering with forgotten joy. The perfect silence of the arcs was gone, replaced by a hum of wonder. They had remembered how to feel homesick for a home they'd never seen.
Third story, the last memory of rain. I remember the rain, not the sterile, scheduled drizzle from the weather grid, but the real thing, the chaotic, drumming, life-giving torrent. My grandmother whispered of it in stories, her voice a crackling record of a lost world. Now I hold the last memory of it in my hands. A warm, humming data cylinder, humming with forbidden resonance. My name is Kalen, a Level 3 archivist in the silica-domed city of Nova 6. My world is one of perfect silent order, where emotions are regulated, and history's curated, not lived. My task was simple: decommission obsolete artifacts. But this cylinder, it wasn't in the logs. Its resonance was organic, like a heartbeat. I smuggled it to my sterile quarters. The playback interface was archaic. With a breath I didn't know I was holding, I connected. It wasn't data, it was a memory, lived. I was suddenly there. Cold, fat drops struck my face. The scent of petrichor, wet soil, and ozone was an overwhelming symphony. Thunder was a physical vibration in my chest. I felt a profound, terrifying joy. The Resonance Authority detected the illegal waveform. Red lights bled through my window. They would purge the memory to preserve our controlled serenity. They called it contamination. I called it salvation. I ran not through the polished transit tubes, but down into the forgotten arterial service tunnels. The cylinder clutched to my heart. Its resonance was a map, not to a place, but to a feeling. It led me to a sealed sector, a relic of the old surface. Here, I found not a monument, but a single gnarled tree. Its roots fused with broken concrete, kept alive by forgotten geothermal heat. It was real, organic. I placed the cylinder at its base. The device glowed, and its resonance bloomed outward, not as data, but as a wave of pure sensory echo. For 3 perfect seconds, a ghost of warm summer rain shimmered in the still air. Kissing the ancient leaves, the enforcers found me, standing quiet and still. They scanned the area, found no unauthorized data, no threat to the consensus reality. They saw only a man and a dead tree. As they led me away, I didn't resist. I was no longer just Kalen the archivist. The memory wasn't stored in a cylinder anymore. It was etched into my cells. I had felt the chaos, the beauty, the unregulated awe of a world alive. And sometimes, in a world of perfect silence, the most revolutionary act is not to fight, but to remember. To carry a secret storm within you and know that you are the proof that something wild and beautiful once was.